sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to sit it back.
It's the Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Vanessa Gatica, Habir Singh Kang, Fuad Andrewas and George Grossios.
Hello, I am Vanessa Gatica and welcome to the program. Our panelists today are Habir Singh Khan and Fuad Andrewas. Hello guys.
Hello, Vanessa.
Friday night footy from Marvel Stadium, St Kilda went down to Brisbane by 15 points, dashing their final hopes altogether. On Saturday, the Western Bulldogs defeated the GWS Giants by 5 points, leaving the door open for the Doggies to slip into the 8, provided the gods of footy shine on them next Sunday. Adelaide beat North Melbourne by 29 points, while Geelong decimated the Gold Coast Suns by 60 points at Metricon. Melbourne got lucky just squeezing past Carlton by 5 points, and Fremantle won the Western Australian Derby, beating West Coast by 24 points. Sunday, Richmond destroyed Hawthorn by 61 points, and Essendon at home went down to Port Adelaide by 84 points. A real blockbuster emerged from the SCG as the Swans took on Collingwood, breaking their 11-game winning streak to win by 27 points and slot into the second place on the AFL ladder. Tough weekend for some sides. Habir, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. It was a tough weekend, but I'm glad that the way the footy has progressed in this season. We are into round 23 and we got like 4 teams at 60 points, and then we don't know who's really in the top 8. This is just a dream come true for as a neutral footy fan. So results with St Kilda, they had everything on the line. I think they should have done better, not just this game, before that, the other games as well. But shining light for Brisbane would be the Cam Rayner. They already have a star-studded forward line, which we are saying that they're performing well. And Cam Rayner coming into that forward line and doing his job. He was a very good player before the ACL injury, and now he's come back very strong as well. So that's very good signs for Brisbane heading into the finals.
But Habir, Cam Rayner, he was a star for Brisbane, scoring 2 goals in the at the beginning of the last quarter, and he ended up with 4 goals. What a youngster. So it was great.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Bulldogs finally managed to win. Very crucial game for them. But not impressed with the way they played though. It should have been more vigorous game from them. There wasn't much of a tackling pressure, and that you expect from a team which has got top 8 in sight. So that was the problem with Bulldogs, which I saw. And Giants, most of the time, they were controlling the game, although there was like more of like marking and other stuff. But they were still in control of the game, and they didn't really let Bulldogs play their own game at their own home ground, which was a huge plus. And we've seen how they're performing a couple of weeks back. And I did say that last week as well, they got a huge responsibility on them to respond to their coach's call. And I think they did that. To me, they came up with the vigor. They played very well, although Bulldogs just got lucky on that day.
Well, they had to win because they had 2 games to go, and this is they played the first half. They won the first game, and they need to win the other game next week and rely on, of course, on Carlton to lose. It's a big ask, but the percentage is only 0.9, so there's still hope for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I said it's a great footy season going on at the moment. There's nothing is certain at the moment. And Adelaide, you're more beating North Melbourne. Not much of a surprise there. Although I would say North Melbourne did put up a good fight, and few good players are coming up. There's some glimpses of hope in North Melbourne. Nothing outward side, like nothing like a lot of shining stuff, but still there's some hope. But Adelaide, definitely.
Adelaide haven't won 3 games in a row since 2020, and they might make it 4 next week if they can beat Port Adelaide in the Derby in Adelaide Oval. So who knows? They've got some youngster, and Darcy scored 4 goals, and so has the captain as well, 3 goals.
Yeah, and obviously Geelong proved me wrong, because I had some. And I would say unwanted confidence in Gold Coast against Geelong. I thought they will put up a great fight, and to the point they might win, having some weather factors as well and this and that. But the way Geelong are playing at the moment, look, there's nothing stopping them. No venue is like foreign to them. Nothing is foreign to them, and the way they set up is just too good at the moment.
Geelong were not in the mood to just have a normal contested game, equal, and they just went from the start and they just destroyed.
Yes. Now, in the West Coast, I'm not sure there would be a lot of pressure on some players. They've had good players in as well, but still they haven't been able to put good performance against Freo this time as well. And with the derby, there should be an extra adrenaline factor in you where you want to win. But this couldn't come up with that, and was no surprise that Freo won that game.
But let's congratulate first Geelong, of course, for being the premier, because no one is going to catch them now. So they won it, and it was a game to spare, I guess. So that's great.
Yeah. And Melbourne beat Carlton.
What a
game. What a game. We can all agree on that. That was just a spectacular game. And if you're not a Melbourne or Carlton fan, you would appreciate every bit of it. And in the end, Melbourne fans, you will still appreciate it. But the game that we had, great play by both the teams. Carlton had it, just like, those pressure situations, any team can falter at that last 2 minutes aside. And unfortunately, Carlton did this time. But what a game and what a trait, probably the best game of the year.
Well, I was there. I was calling in the Arabic language, and our director, football director, he's a Carlton, he was there, and I was going for Melbourne, and he was going for Carlton. But the thing that it was great, Habir, is the leads changed 7 or 8 times. So the game was just in the balance to the last probably a few seconds. With 20 seconds to go, I think that's where Carlton, they thought they won it, but it wasn't to be. Congratulations to Melbourne, was the last kick. Pickett, great goal.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And we'll be back after the break with more reviews from last weekend's games. Welcome back. You are with the Multicultural AFL Footy Show. Last Sunday, Richmond decimated Hawthorn, Port Adelaide destroyed Essendon, and the Sydney Swans put Collingwood to the sword. Fuad, what are your views, please?
Oh, well, that was a game and a half. Richmond beat Hawthorn by 61. That's a thrashing, Habir, right? The game was lost in the first half, in the first quarter, really, when Richmond scored 6 goals. And then they backed it in the third quarter and they scored another 9. So it was a tough ask for Hawthorn to come back from there. What did you think?
Yeah, well, the other teams need to be wary of Tom Lynch now. He's picking at the right time. He's been scoring so many goals. And with the supply he's getting from the Shy Boltons and others, I think Richmond is a force to reckon with. And say if they get their X Factor, Dusty Martin in, that team, it's going to be hard to stop. So other teams, watch out. And Hawks, like the kind of form they are in, and the way they are hungry for more, Richmond at the moment,
yes,
which you normally don't see if you want that many premiership, but they seem hungry, and that's the result is in front of us. What happened?
And the other game, of course, was Port Adelaide thrashing, and I meant it, thrashing Essendon by 84 points. There is 2 things to it. Port Adelaide coach is being appointed for next year, so that's a release. And then the players are playing for him as well, and they've just went and they just kicked and kicked and kicked. And what a game!
Yeah. Now, look, there's a lot of off-field drama happening with Essendon. They had a meeting before the game as well, and after that, and there's still not sure what to do. So a lot of things happening. So no surprises for me over there. And Port Adelaide, they played for their pride, and Essendon were not there.
And that was just a bit of bad luck for Rutten, the coach, of course, because now they're talking about whether he's going to be there next year or not. But the next game, of course, the game of the round, it was Sydney and Collingwood. Collingwood undefeated in 11 games in a row, and guess what?
Yeah. Now, well, they They missed Taylor Adams, wasn't there. De Goey wasn't there. Tubdefe, it's like a foreign territory as well. And Sydney, like they are another force to reckon with at the moment. If you can see a team who can challenge Geelong at the moment, I can see Sydney there.
But you know what's the greatest thing? The top 8 is not going to be decided till the last round, which is fantastic football, isn't it?
Definitely.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys. Tomorrow night, the last round of the year comes all the way from the Gabba, as Brisbane take on Melbourne. They secure the second and third position of the AFL ladder. The Giants play Fremantle from Manica Oval in Canberra in another intriguing match as Freo tries to secure the third place on the ladder. North Melbourne at Marvel play host to the Gold Coast, and Geelong, home at the Cattery, take on the West Coast Eagles. Your thoughts on those matches, Javier?
I would say Brisbane versus Melbourne. That's going to be a big test for Melbourne for me. We've seen that in the last few games or so. They were lucky against Carlton, but they've been giving other teams chances, even though they are in the front, and they've still been losing those games. And I can see probably not happening that in Gabba. I think Brisbane's going to be all the way they are playing, the way they are gelling at Gabba. It's going to be very hard for Melbourne, but Melbourne should come up with a good game.
That's what I think too, Habir. I think at the Gabba it's a tough game, but Melbourne should regroup, and I think they'll come back and win that.
Well, Giants versus Fremantle. Fremantle are riding high at the moment, and Giants, they've got a point to prove. I think they have sort of answered what their coach asked of them. But then again, there were a lot of skill errors from their side against Bulldogs, which end up biting them at the end. So hopefully they can put up a better performance against Fremantle. But Fremantle would be too good.
I can't see them winning, and I reckon Fremantle will win to cement the third position on the ladder.
Yeah, and North Melbourne. I'm sorry, I don't see any hope with that. Gold Coast, after the loss to Geelong, they'll be firing, and then North Melbourne doesn't have any chance.
With North Melbourne, they will have to do something about winning that game, because that will be the worst record since 1972. So if they lose another game, so they should do something about that.
Well, they will make a record in something. Geelong versus West Coast at GMHBA. I mean, as we talked before, Geelong, they are unbeatable at any ground, and GMHBA, and that too against West Coast, easy run for them.
I think so too. I agree with you.
And apart from that game, let's come to the other thing which I've sort of noticed. The booing of the players and few other things that's going on in the ground. And the worst one was, I've heard that Pickett, he got racially abused for what he's done to Carlton. Okay, that's not on. I mean, the crowds, those players are there to entertain you. They put in hard yards, they put in hard effort in. So that sort of makes it very harsh on them when you're booing them. And on the other hand, we saw that with Patrick Cripps as well. To his credit, he didn't do anything untowards towards the result, that the outcome of that. That was the tribunal who came up with that. And if you don't agree with that, it's the tribunal you should be booing, not the Patrick Cripps. Yeah. So Melbourne fans, I think, to me, that was kind of wrong.
Yeah, booing players and racial words and stuff like that, it's not the right thing in our game these days. What happened to sportsmanship? You know, that's got to come back to our game so we can entertain, you know, because it's an entertainment game. And like you said, the fans loved it and we loved watching it. So let's go back to basic.
No, definitely. And Gideon at Sydney mob booing him just when he was injured and sitting on the bench just because he came on the camera. I don't think that's getting good message across to the youngsters, to the whole world. We talk about promoting this game and it should be more inclusive. We need to make it more inclusive, not by doing these things.
Definitely, guys. We will continue with our show back after this break. On Saturday night, Essendon challenged Richmond from the MCG, and the South Australian Derby is up for bragging rights between Port Adelaide and Adelaide. While on Sunday, St Kilda at home from Marvel Stadium take on the informed Sydney Swans. All eyes, however, will be on the other two Sunday games. From Tassie, Hawthorn will challenge the Western Bulldogs, who will have a win for a place in the 8th, hoping the Magpies can beat Carlton. The Western Bulldogs match finishes before the MCG clash starts between the Blues and the Magpies, which will have the advantage knowing the Doggies' result. Interesting. The MCG has almost sold out for the traditional rivalry between the Blues and the Magpies. It will be an old-style, hard-fought grudge match as Collingwood tries to claw back into the 4th place for the second chance, and Carlton desperate for a win to stay in the 8th. It all comes down this Sunday for what? So interesting and so amazing footy we have.
Oh, well, let's start with the Essendon-Richmond game. Of course, that is going to be a big game for Essendon because they're just coming from a big thrashing from Port Adelaide. And guess what? They're playing Richmond. So that's another big game. But it's going to make it hard for their coach, of course, Rutten, because now the paper started to talk about his future at the club. But Habir, I can see Richmond just having another big score there. So what do you think?
I'm definitely expecting some fight back from Essendon players because they've been under the hammer. They've been pretty much all year, but I think they would try to prove a point in the last games. That's what I believe. But having a look at the Richmond, they're like a rollover. Doesn't matter what comes in their way. I think they're just going to roll them over at the moment, the way they are playing. So I'm expecting probably a good fight from Essendon, but in the end, Richmond coming out on the top. With big margin or not, I'm not too sure about that. But Port Adelaide versus Adelaide, what a game to end with that derby.
Well, I'll be there. So that's a derby for Port. I mean, it's Port Adelaide's game, home game. I think both teams are in good form. Adelaide is there to try to make it 4 in a row. Port Adelaide just coming from a good win, and it's going to be spectacular. You know, they've got young players, fantastic players from both teams, and they can score goals from everywhere. So I think that would be in my opinion, the game of the round.
Yeah, hopefully there's that's a game goal after the siren aside. And we come to the all-important game of Hawks versus Bulldogs. That's a lot at stakes over there. I must say the kind of performance Bulldogs did against GWS Giants, if they come up Hawks with that against Hawks, they got no chance whatsoever. They will make the Carlton fans happy even before they even start. So they really need to come up with some ferocity against Hawks, and they really need to come up with good skill. There were a lot of skill errors that they did as well, which you don't expect from a team which got top 8 at stake. They're playing at Tasmania. That's a big advantage for Hawks, which will make it more harder for Bulldogs.
Agree with you. They're playing in Tasmania, but also that you've got Western Bulldogs that they're playing for a bigger part of the pie because they've got something big to play for, which is to get into the top 8 and rely on another result, like for the rival Carlton to lose it. But I think, in my opinion, it'll be an upset and Western Bulldogs will beat Hawthorn.
Yeah, and there's nothing more than putting a dent in someone's top 8 hopes. St Kilda versus Sydney. Look, I would have expected St Kilda to do well in Marvel, but the way Sydney are performing and the way St Kilda, I think Sydney, they've got their top 2 position probably in sight with them. So they're going to come on hard, and I don't think St Kilda has the ammunition to stop them at this stage.
Agree with you. It looks like Sydney is going to win that one because, and I can see that the grand final could come to the top 2, like Sydney Geelong. They are the best 2 performing teams in the league at the moment.
Yeah, and Carlton versus Collingwood, like as you said, Carlton will have that upper hand. They know the mathematics of the game, but there is nothing fearsome than the Carlton-Collingwood game in itself. Doesn't matter where they are at the ladder or where they are, those are always the good games. So with Carlton got too much at stake, I hope they get a couple of players back, Degois, just to make it even, because otherwise Carlton will have the upper hand. But having said that, what a game. top 4 and top 8 position at stake. Hopefully Bulldogs win, and that will make that game more interesting.
What a game, of course. It's a sold-out game, and it's a sell-out. But Carlton, all they have to do, I think the motivation there is win, and the Bulldogs are out. So that is the motivation for Carlton. So, or lose with very minimum percentage or points. But what a game, as you're saying, that's going to be a spectacular game.
Definitely.
And Habir, we knew from the start of the season that 12 games will get you in the top 8. And Carlton did that. So, but of course, Western Bulldogs are 111. So they need to win that 12th game. Percentage, it's going to come to percentage. 108.8 for Carlton, 107.9 for Western Bulldogs. What do you think it will happen there?
Yeah, that's what I said. It's all the mathematics that we got at the moment with the percentage. Bulldogs, even if they win, but they don't win by too big of a margin, that could create a problem for them as well.
17 points.
Yeah, and with the Carlton, on the other hand side, even if they don't lose that much of a percentage, they're still in because they still be on the same points. So it's a very good game, although I would say stakes are quite high for at Carlton at the moment. They all have to come up with some strong performance, because I'm not sure what's going to happen to them with the last game, because they were very close, and that could have either effect on you. Either they can make it can make you strong or weak. So let's see what side of Carlton come up.
Well, it will be heartbreaking for either team anyway, because Western Bulldog were in the final last year, but obviously Carlton hasn't been in the finals for a long time, so it might be a heartbreaking for one of the team, of course.
Thank you, guys. This brings me to my tip selections for the last home and away round this season, and I'm going for Melbourne, Fremantle, Gold Coast, Geelong, Richmond, Port Adelaide, Western Bulldogs, Collingwood and Sydney. Well, that is all we have time for this week. You can also watch us in Adelaide on Channel 44 Friday 6:30 p.m, on Aurora Foxtel TV at 1 p.m. Saturday, and on the Nembc AFL YouTube. You are listening to this podcast on the Community Radio Network, and the AFL Diversity News in 8 languages can be heard on select national multicultural radio stations. I am Vanessa Gatica, and from our panelists, Javier and Fuad, good night, and we shall see you next week.